Okay, so this is actually take 2 of lesson 9-3, multiplying binomials. When I did it the first time, I ran out of time. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do the lesson a little faster. I'm looking for some guidance. Okay, so I have this woman to help me, this angel. So hopefully she will give me guidance and speed, and I won't have to write anything because everything's already written, and then I made a mistake, so there was a blooper, but you're going to miss that. Okay, well actually I'll show you the blooper. I don't really care. Okay, so multiplying binomials, not much different than multiplying the monomial with the trinomial that we did, or the monomial with polynomials that we did in the last lesson. And I'm going to show you 3 different ways in order to multiply these binomials. So the first method is the distributive property, where you distribute the first monomial of our binomial, distribute that first to both items, and then we distribute the second monomial. When we multiply positive 6h times positive 2h, we get 12h squared, and then 6h times 3 gives us positive 18h. Now the negative 7 times the 2h is a negative 14h, and a negative 7 times a positive 3 is a negative 21. Now what we have to make sure that we do is we have to now go ahead and combine like terms. Okay, so when we combine our positive 18h with our negative 14h, we end up with the positive 4h, giving us 12h squared plus 4h minus 21. Okay, so that was our first example. Now, without all of the arrows, or we can arrow it, I can always arrow it now, 5m first to our 8m gives us 40m squared, and then 5m times negative 1 gives us negative 5m. Now we go for our positive 2 to our positive 8m is our positive 16m, and positive 2 times a negative 1 gives us negative 2. When we once again combine our like terms, our answer comes out to 40m squared plus 11m minus 2. Okay, so let's move on to our second method, which is the FOIL method. Okay, so FOIL, you're going to hear the word an awful lot because it's used an awful lot when we do these binomials because it gives you a guide, basically. So FOIL, F for first, O for outside, I for inside, and L for last. What they're talking about here is the first numbers, okay? So the 3x and the 2x are our first numbers. And then outside numbers, 3x and 5, they're the outside of this grouping. Inside, that's your 4 and your 2x. I've labeled that with an I. Those are your inside numbers. And then your last numbers, the 4 and the 5. Okay, so when we put all this together, we have the 3x times the 2x, giving us 6x squared. 3x, now we do our outside, 3x and 5 is 15x. Our inside, 4 times 2x is 8x. And our last, 4 times 5 is 20. Once again, in this method, we are combining our like terms, giving us 6x squared plus 23x plus 20. Okay, let's look at another FOIL example. Okay, so starting with our first, 3x times 2x gives us 6x squared. Okay, going to our outside now, we have 3x times a negative 5, giving us negative 15x. Now looking at our inside, positive 4 times positive 2x, positive 8x. And then our last, positive 4, negative 5, gives us a negative 20. When we once again combine those like terms, we end up with 6x squared minus 7x minus 20. So the FOIL method is used quite a bit because it just makes a lot of sense, and you can actually talk yourself through it as you're going through. The last technique is a vertical technique. I use this an awful lot only because it works well with your binomials, but then as you can see, we'll be looking at a binomial and a trinomial in just a moment. But what happens is if you stack them and then multiply, first I'm doing my multiplication with my 5 here, so 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. Positive 5 times the 3x is the positive 15x. Now when I go to my next monomial here, I shift in so that my all of my terms will be in the proper place. So 2x times negative 4 gives me the negative 8x. Notice that these are like terms here. And then 2x times the 3x is the 6x squared. When you combine these two, you end up with the 6x squared plus 7x minus 20. I will use the vertical a lot, but what you want to do is find what is most comfortable for you and easiest to do and makes the most sense. So, so moving on from here, we want to look at multiplying a binomial with a trinomial. Okay, now you cannot FOIL this because you've got this middle term that we don't really know what to do with. You can do this by distributive property, or you can do this by the stacking method. So we'll go ahead and look at this. You'll actually be able to see where I made my blooper, and we will fix it as we go. So stacking method, okay, in vertical. So my negative 8 times my positive 7, negative 56, and here's where I made my error before. Negative 8 times a positive n. I should have had this as a negative 8n, and I had it as a positive, so there's a negative 8n, okay? And then negative 8 times the 2n squared is negative 16n squared. Now I'll multiply times my 6n. Notice I'm shifting in, okay? Just like if we were multiplying with tens and hundreds and thousands. Okay, so 6n times a positive 7 is a positive 42n. 6n times positive n is a positive 6n squared. And then your 6n times positive 2n squared gives me 12n cubed. N squared times n to the first is n to the 2 plus 1, which is n cubed. Just a little reminder there. Okay, and so what we actually end up with here is 12n cubed minus 10n squared, and here's where I made that critical error. Instead of I went to 50, I should not have. This should be a positive 34n. There's my correction, minus 56. I actually caught my mistake when I did this by the distributive property. So let's look at the distributive property, okay? And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing the 6n to all of these first, and then you will do the negative 8 to all of these second. So as you can see, 6n times 2n squared, 12n cubed, 6n times n, 6n squared, and 6n plus the 7 is 42n. Negative 8 times 2n squared is negative 16n squared. Negative 8 times positive n, negative 8n, that's when I found my mistake. And negative 8 times positive 7 is negative 56. Obviously, she's looking over me this time. Oh, yes, much better work. Okay, now when I combine these things, I've got a couple of things that I need to combine. So I have my 12n cubed. Now I've combined my 6n squared with my negative 16n squared. giving me the negative 10n squared. Now I'm going to combine my 42n with my negative 8n, giving me the positive 34n, and then finishing it off with my negative 56. Okay, so I think that you can see that you've got a couple of options with the multiplication of this. We will be having some applications of these polynomials. Let me go back to my regular writing utensil. And we will be actually finding the areas of shaded regions of shapes. And you will have some of these that you'll be doing tomorrow. So let's just look at one of them. I think we have some time. So if we are looking at a rectangle and then a rectangle within that rectangle, and this area in here is all shaded. Okay, so this is our shaded area. Okay, this area in here is not shaded. So this is 5x in here and x plus 6. And out here we've got 5x plus 8, and we've got 6x plus 2. So the whole idea here is they want to find the area of the shaded region. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to find the area of the whole rectangle, then we will find the area of the unshaded rectangle, and then we will find the difference. So we're going to take our 5x plus 8, multiply that times 6x plus 2. Okay, however you want to do it, we're going to go ahead and FOIL this. So I've got 30x squared. My outside is going to be 10x. Inside is a 48x. And my last is going to be 16. And together that's going to be 30x squared. And that's plus 58x plus 16. Now over here I'm going to come back and I'm going to say now I need my small area, which is 5x times x plus 6. And that's going to give me 5x squared plus 30x. Now, I'm going to subtract this from the other, which means that becomes a negative and that becomes a negative, okay, because I am subtracting them. So what I am going to end up with here, 30x squared minus the 5x squared gives me 25x squared. 58 minus 30 gives me 28x. And my 16 doesn't have anything being subtracted, so it is still plus 16. So my answer here for the area of the shaded region is 25x squared plus 28x plus 16. Okay, hopefully you understood that. Okay, it's always nice to have an angel watching over us, so I think we did really well. Okay, thank you so much.